Michael Mays, Psycho Black. Action activate.
Oh, what a jam. I'm Gazbot. This is Action Activate. We're here to talk about Dino Fury Episode 3, Lost Signal. But if I'm here and you're here, well, then you know who else has got to be here.
It's the big Dawg Defender wearing his ADTR hat. For those of you that are fans of the band, A Day to Remember, their new album just came out yesterday. Please listen like I have. And now let's talk Power Rangers.
I had no idea what that stood for.
We're in no way sponsored by A Day to Remember. If you'd like to sponsor us, I'm more than happy to work for free. Just let us know.
I would first need to listen to their music to know if you've probably played it for me at some point, haven't you?
I will be sponsored on our behalf.
Okay, that you can be sponsored. Don't speak for me or the show because I don't even know if I like this band.
Activate Days to Remember. See, it already works. We're included, but we're losing our track of our signal when it comes to this review. Let's get back on this.
Okay, so the third episode of Dino Fury ever, Lost Signal. Do you want to give an overview like before we jump in, or do you want to jump in and like do you want to give a summary or thoughts ahead of time? Or
this was my least favorite of the three.
Okay,
and I'll give my full review at the end. But in classic Power Rangers fashion, I was watching this episode, and Mrs. Big Dog was next to me and was like, "You're going to watch Power Rangers right now?" I was like, "Yep." She's like, "Okay." She was in the room on her phone, and the same thing happened with Beast Morphers, where I think the Tommy Tuba episode was the one she was there for, and I'm like, why is it that every time you're here, it's always episodes with weird stuff going on that's hard for me to casually explain? She's like, "Wait, those are terrible looking antennas." I was like, "No, but like, I know that he retracts them." She's like, "Oh, they used all the marketing budget, so hey, I'm gonna retract them. Look away." Oh, there they go. They're gone. And I was like, yeah, they do look kind of bad. I'm not going to defend the antenna. And she's like, "Enjoy your episode."
Well, but okay. First of all, I don't think his antenna are that bad, and I don't think they're the worst part of this episode. Certainly, I will say this to me is the middle episode. I liked 2 the best, 1 the worst. This one is in between the 2.
I liked 1 way better than this.
I know you did. I found it disappointing. 2 brought me back. So I'm saying this one is in between the 2. But I find it crazy that you compare it to the Beast Morphers episode with the Tuba Kid, because that was terrible. There's a lot of bad stuff going on there. The fact that his antenna were not super well done how is that compared to the Tommy Tuba episode at all?
Because in both instances, and she lasted literally like the credits and then that, and then she was like, "All right, enjoy your episode, goodbye."
But also, arguably, any episode she watched, he could have his antenna out. I mean, that's not this episode.
It was the antenna when Zaito was talking to his mom. She was like, "This acting is not great. Like, what is going on?" I'm like, "Well, like, he's from a planet and he's 65 million years old." She's like,
"Planet."
She's like, "What?" Because I forget the name of it, but what's
the scene you're talking about?
Yes. What's the planet called?
Something with a K.
It's something not great. Like, the name of the planet isn't ideal.
Kellinor or something like that?
No, that's cooler than the planet name. It was like Rhinoc or something. No, Rhinoc I think is a villain.
Rhinor? I don't know. I don't think
Here, take it off so we don't get a copyright strike, but like
I know, but I don't think they're that terrible is my point.
I couldn't defend it as much as I wanted to.
I thought that flashback scene amazing? No. Was it horrible? No. But I don't like the antenna. Like, don't specifically bother me. I'm surprised that was the thing that was home.
I think the antenna on the mom is what set it off, because on Zaito, I think they like half designed it.
Ravcon is the planet.
Yeah, Ravcon. Where I'm like, okay.
That's also the new gathering of people that are fans of one particular Ninja Turtle. Ravcon.
There you go. I'd go to Ravcon. It's just a giant hardcore show. where there's a circle pit the whole time, and that's the con. And in the center are the vendors like you selling your art to those running by.
Yeah. And I have to be in a shell to protect myself.
No, it is a shell. It's a dome.
Oh.
It's outside, and there's a big tent that is a green shell. Hey, Hasbro.
No, but if I'm in the middle of a mosh
Here
pit
you go.
trying to sell art, I need some sort of barrier.
The table's the barrier.
You underestimate mosh pits and table integrity.
No, having been in many, I understand the chaos that will ensue at your table in this fictional con that I just made up.
I'm selling paper goods. They're paper goods. You understand? They're going to
No,
get
all of yours that are at a preset premium are $10 more because they're all in the plastic sleeves that you are then selling to people.
Sleeves anyway.
No, like the hard,
the hard case things. All right, let's talk about Power Rangers and not this fictional con, as you said. So, okay, well, let's back up a second because we didn't even really properly start.
Hey, welcome to Action Activate. It's episode 3. We're talking about signal loss for Dino Fury. Here we go.
The theme is growing on me. I still don't love it, but I'm kind of getting used to it. I still think that they should have leaned harder into the techno stuff, and I think that that techno stuff would have been better suited to Beast Morphers. But just in a vacuum, as it's coming on, I find that it's growing on me a bit. I'm kind of bobbing my head a little bit.
I enjoy the beat more than I enjoy the song, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the lyrics and the vocals are not the strong suit of it.
The one part I like that I notice every time I kind of mumble it. Evolution Revo, and I'm like every time I'm like, oh, grumble.
It's getting you.
Grumble, because I know it's like building back up. Like, all right, now we're new episode. Let's do it. I do like, by the way, that we lead every episode with it before we do stuff. Whereas Beast Morphers would have stuff,
like 10 minutes of an episode,
then do it, and this is just like, hey, credits, let's go.
I'm fine with it either way. I think Beast Morphers took it to an extreme. I think having a few minutes just to get people into the story or have like a one-off thing, that's fine. But yeah, it's fine. I guess you have an opinion about more than I do, is what I'm saying.
It's true.
When Zeto's mom gave him the pendant and was like, never give up, did that make you think of Wild Force? Because it made me think of Wild Force.
No, it made me think of Troy.
Did he always say never give up?
Yeah, he was like, you must believe in yourself, Robo Knight! Ah! That one time.
That's not him saying never give up necessarily. I'm not saying he didn't, but
I think throughout the show, that was his big thing was just telling everybody, no, you got to believe in yourself. No giving up. We're the Mega Force Rangers. Go.
So you really like that aspect of Troy's character in the show, is what you're saying?
For sure. Yeah, that was my favorite part.
Well, but I guess it's weird because I've watched Wild Force more recently than Mega Force.
Yes.
But the Black Ranger and the Blue Ranger, Danny and I forget the Blue Ranger's name, they would always say, I think, never give up, or words to that effect. That was their little catchphrase to each other. Yeah. So I was having a more positive association, I suppose, than you were.
No, so between these two, yes. I agree that also because I watched it way longer ago than you. Right. I think that theme was used a little more organically in Wild Force.
Yeah.
And it fit the story beats better than in Mega Force, where it was like, no, we got to believe in yourself. And then Ghost is like, hey, by the way, everybody, I got you your 19th power up. There you go. That's a story for a different day. This
won't be the last time we talk about Mega Force, this review. I can tell you that.
Oh, yeah.
So going back to the antenna, I like that Zeto has his antenna out. Because when he has to go into town and be undercover or whatever and look human, fine. But I like that, he's just hanging out in the woods. Like, he has the antenna out. It's like if you had a mask that you had to wear all the time, you'd take it off when you were alone, that makes sense to me.
I appreciate everything that you said. It's grossly distracting to me, which is why, I have mixed feelings about it. Story-wise, agree. Okay. But it's not, if it looked, and there's no way this would happen, if it looked like the antenna that Mantis has in Guardians of the Galaxy, very seamless, totally fine. I'm with it.
It's prosthetics. They're not CGI.
I know. That's my point, which is why I'm just staring at them all the time like a giant growth.
I think they're not as bad as you're making them out to me, but I will say this. I like that he has them out when he doesn't have to conceal his identity, but it's a little inconsistent because sometimes he's in the base and they're not out, and why not? So exactly. I do wish it would, as much as you don't like it, I wish it was more or not at all because so they have a throwaway line in here about Zolon working on the pink and blue Zords, which I like, obvious foreshadowing for later in the episode.
Yep.
And then they get this signal, the lost signal, but some component blows out and they can't get it and they think it's from his planet. And meanwhile, he was just pining about his planet. And at first I was like, what a coincidence. He's like, my planet, is anyone alive? And then he gets the signal. But I let it go because I'm like, well, they've been in hibernation or whatever for all this time. He comes out, they check, hey, there's a signal. Maybe that signal was going the whole time. They don't know, so it seemed a little convenient, but then I convinced myself it was fine.
I was neutral on it. The less I thought about it, the more I couldn't be excited or upset about it.
Okay. The next thing though is I think an example of Zato is also growing on me. Blue is still my favorite character, but Zato as a leader, as a red, is growing on me more and more. Yes. Because he's very even keeled and he's very fair. And so when they're talking about how could we find a crystal that will replace this, whatever. And what's Pink's name again? Allie? I keep forgetting. I don't know. No,
it's not Allie, but I don't remember what her name is.
It's something with an A. Hold on, I had it written down. Well, whatever. So somebody else.
It's not Amelia.
It's something close to Amelia. Something. All right. Well, anyway, so they come in and they want, and he's like, I got to find this thing. And her first thing is, oh, you should go to this psychic, Madame Indigo, which I do know because I have it written down. Madame Indigo, and she could find anything. And then Ollie's like, are you kidding me? A psychic? That's ridiculous. Let's do science. I know someone at the observatory. They and they won't charge $15. And obviously, I'm on his side in this. But Zato, wisely, A, he's not from this planet, so he doesn't know. And B, he has 2 team members. He doesn't want to favor one. He's like, let's try both. Why not both?
The thing about this scene that I liked is it showed Zato is one of the first Red Rangers we've had in a long time that is very open to listening to his team. There's stuff that he clearly knows, and he's okay learning from his team for stuff he doesn't. And that's the thing with this, where he's like, hey, fine. Where like I keep comparing him to Andros in my head, and Andros is just that scorned veteran ranger who's like, no, we got to do it my way. You don't know what you're doing. You may have been rangers on Earth, but space is a whole other story.
Right.
So
I was going to say, I kind of like him better than Andros, to be honest.
well, that's the thing. It's just kind of showing that character evolution. And the other thing I liked was kind of solidifying more for Ollie. He's like, no, I'm about analytical information. I'm science-based. This is what it is. And then tying back to Pink, where she's like, I'm looking for Bigfoot. I think there's ghosts out here. I'm spiritual. And like kind of having that divide in their relationship, what I like. Absolutely. And when they do see Madam, what's her name?
Indigo.
There's one beat that I really like and I think is hard foreshadowing.
Yes, I agree. You're skipping a whole lot of stuff.
No. I'm planting the seed. Let's go.
But I agree with everything you said about Zato, but I am wondering what last season you think that Rory's not his name. Rory's the actor's name.
I know. We're really good at remembering the actors' names and not the characters.
Devin. You think that Devin didn't listen to his team enough?
No. Because think of all the episodes where I was like, why are you being a doofus?
Yeah, you're
like,
right. Okay.
That's what made me so mad is he was so inconsistent.
What about Tyler from Dino Charge?
He was more open, yes. But how long ago was that? That's 5 seasons ago, 6 seasons
well, if
ago?
you're counting super seasons, but it was Dino Charge, Ninja Steel, Beast Morpher. So it was 2 seasons.
I'm counting the two teams.
All right, whatever. So anyway, but I do also like in this scene, he's like, where are you going to get the money? She's like, I'll get the money. Don't worry. And he's like, I brought $15. Good joke.
Yeah.
And this is another episode where there's a lot of good joke, bad joke. Like it's weird. Like it's like they seem to have evolved the humor to make it work, but can't quite let go of the cartoony stuff.
Yeah. The best way I can equate, because this is a good stopping point for that, is it was 2 steps forward, 1.5 steps back. It's not a full going back to center, but I'm like, you're inching forward as opposed to striving.
But also at the same time. You know what I mean? It's like a band put out an album that had some really good songs, but also some terrible songs. It wasn't like the whole album got a little better. It's sort of like, here's some that are just as bad as before, and here's some that are good. And like,
you know what album has really good songs all around it? A Day to Remember's new album called You're Welcome came out yesterday. I just wanted to tie it back. Sorry.
I understand.
You brought back album. So anyways, throwaway joke. Let's keep going.
So now they go to the festival or fair, carnival, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where Madame Indigo is. And they go to the tent. And Jane, and the only reason I'm remembering these names because I haven't written them down. Jane and the J-Borg, which is the name of her robot officially, I guess, are there. And I thought it was weird because they come in and she's like, I'll be right with you. Now, I've been to a handful of psychics in my life when I was a kid and fortune tellers, stuff like that. Usually you're not allowed to go. It's like I'm having my special time.
Exactly,
like a doctor or something. So it was weird that they're like, yeah, come in and watch and like maybe film it if you want. Like that seemed odd to me. I mean, it's a little throwaway thing. I just happen to know that that's not how that works.
Yeah.
Then she's trying to gain her psychic powers. Jane is, and then she's like, oh, I think I feel it. I think I feel it. And she's like, nope, it was the chili dog.
It was just a burp.
Just a burp. Now, I have nothing against a burp or a fart joke. It wasn't the worst I've seen on Power Rangers. It certainly was not great. I like that they gave it to the attractive, powerful woman, because usually it would go to like the goofy fat guy or something.
Yeah.
So I like that they mixed it up there.
They humanized her a bit.
I do think, and I'm a real stickler for this, the sound effects matching up to what she was doing was not great. And this always bothers me with burps and farts. Like, can't we just record someone burping? Why does it have to be this weird burp sound effect?
Yeah.
Or farting, yeah. So, but I do give them credit for taking the joke that they would do and putting a different spin on it.
Sorry, I was looking down at my phone before to confirm that Pink Ranger's name is Amelia.
Amelia. Okay, so it is Amelia, like Amelia Earhart.
Yep.
I do also like, though, that as goofy as Jane is and whatever, she wants to use her powers to find the sporks to help the Power Rangers. So it's like, okay, and they're also making her a little bit. The duo of Jane and Jayborg is a little bit too cartoony for me, and I like we've kind of moved beyond that with a lot of the humor. But I do like that they have wacky schemes and they're generally good. And I shouldn't say this, but it reminds me of later season Bulk and Skull a little bit.
Yeah, it reminded me of like Turbo or Lost Galaxy, Bulk / his partner.
Oh wait, Phenomenus?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess for a while it was the three of them, but where it's like, they're mostly good guys that are just have dumb schemes and like they're, I can't decide. Excuse me. I can't decide if I'm starting to like them as a comedic duo or not.
I hate them as a comedic duo.
I hated them last episode. This episode, it was all over the place. I
disliked them more as a duo this episode than last episode.
Okay, well, we got more of them in a minute that we'll get to.
Yeah.
So there. Oh, you know what I could do is I could just put up still frames when we're talking instead of having the thing playing.
That's true.
So they go through it, and Zato gets it, and the psychic gives like the most basic psychic answer.
Generic thing.
Yeah. Oh, I'm from far away, and somebody wants to get in touch with me. And she's like, oh, someone's trying to get in touch with you from far away. And he's like, oh my gosh, it's true. And I love that Ollie's like, oh, by the way, we're in love. What's going on? Like that's the psychic test. That's the you ask them something that you know is not true to see, and then she's like, oh yeah, you guys have been together for a while, and it's gonna work out. And I love that. I loved that he did that. I love also for the kids watching. Hey, have a little skepticism, be a little credulous. Ask some more questions. It's okay to like experiment and be open minded, but don't be stupid about it. So like I thought that was great. Now. They get outside and Zato is like, I didn't know you guys were in love. That's amazing. And they're like, we're not stupid. It was a joke,
Yeah.
And this is, I think, the foreshadowing you were maybe talking about.
Yes, that they're for sure going to be a couple by the end of this.
I hope so. Because it even like, no, I had tried really hard not to throw up in my mouth. Yeah, me too. And it's like, that was a little visceral. Like it could have just been like, no, we're not, and it's sort of that whole Mulder Scully skeptic and dreamer thing. And like, and they have such good banter and chemistry that even though they're always arguing, they clearly like each other and they clearly get along. And it's like, so I would like to see them end up. And I think you're right that is foreshadowing.
And I think we've gotten better with Power Rangers seasons, Neo Saban or not, where they're like, look, we can have them be couples and not have it, go down a path that like, people higher up are poo-pooing. Like last season with Zoe and Nate, totally reasonable.
Yeah.
They were a couple. They cared for each other a little bit more than the other Rangers. That's fine. Same with this. If we're building to it and that happens.
Ninja had a couple as well that for the most part didn't matter. There was like one episode where I think they had a fight or something, but generally speaking, and I think because they don't want it to be too adult and get into weird areas that way. And they don't want to have like fights and drama of relationship. But it's fine to be like, oh, these two characters like each other or they get together at the end. Like that's normal. And like even fairy tales have that kind of stuff going on.
Oh, and Roxy and my boy, whose name I'm forgetting. Ravi. There we go.
Thank you. Okay, so we go into the scene after this where we're following up with Jane and Jayborg. Jane's walking around with a blindfold like a dope, and Jayborg is kind of following her. and Jayborg happens to find a Sporix. Now, this is the thing I realized. Jayborg steps into some cement and says, "Oops, I'm sorry," and then the guy's like, "Not as sorry as you're gonna be." I don't like this joke at all.
I don't either.
Because it crackles and hardens instantly. There is no cement in the world that is liquid, and then by the time you step in it, it hardens and you can't pull it out. That doesn't exist. This is more that either super science or cartoon jokes for the sake of cartoon jokes.
My problem with it is different than your problem, which I didn't expect.
Oh, okay.
I am willing to forgive super cement like they have that works like that.
Okay.
Willing to accept that. What I'm not willing to accept is that this cyborg that is proven to have some form of strength higher than a human.
We know she has super speed. Did we?
And super speed that was confirmed.
Super speed was confirmed.
Put the burp, dopey-dope.
Her super speed was confirmed. Her super strength was not. Nor was her super dexterity or agility. You're saying, like, how could a robot fall?
No, not the falling part. She could, and I believe with even just her super speed, this would be a mild inconvenience for her.
How? Because she would run super fast or like vibrate it off.
Shake her legs, something.
This goes back to that whole scene was terrible because does she have super speed or did they speed it up just for comedic effect? Or is she like so efficient that it seems like super speed to a human, or is she actually moving at superhuman speed? Yeah, problems. However, I kind of like this actress.
I hated the dopiness. It was awful for me.
I like the voice she uses. I like the faces she makes. Here's the thing. I will agree with you. I'm not a fan of the robot character. There shouldn't be a robot assisted. The whole thing makes no sense. Is she a slave? There's all kinds of weird questions that I don't like. Putting all that aside, given that she is now a comedic robot character and this is what we're doing, I think the actress was doing a good job. I like the voice she was doing. I like the faces. You know, it's kind of like, you know, Victor and Monty. Like, I did not like most of their jokes, but I can't say that those actors didn't do a good job. And that's kind of how I'm looking at this.
I think if she was a Victor or Monty character, I would be totally fine with this. She was confirmed a stoic robot last episode and is now more over the top than any other character I've seen on this show.
Well, on Dino Fury, yes. On some Power Rangers, no.
Well, yeah, but she's also a robot.
But what does that mean? We don't know. This goes back to the problem being that how is she a robot? Is she some high-end model? Is she some junky model?
Here is the thing.
We don't know.
If she's supposed to be based, what's the boss's name?
Jane.
If she's supposed to be based on Jane, I can't accept that the robot version is more hammy than Jane. If she's matching Jane, because there's a connection there and she's basing her mannerisms and her thought process or whatever based on Jane, fine. Jane was cool, calm, and collected, getting on a bus blindfolded, and the robot goes, "Oh, dopey-dope, up, wet cement, burp, Sporix."
Okay, but she is getting on a bus blindfolded, so clearly she's a bit dopey at times, too. She thinks she has psychic powers, so she's walking around.
But there's a difference in, like, even just their mannerisms.
Well, they're not supposed to be the same person.
They're supposed to be. If anything, Jayborg should be more reserved.
Okay. Let me put it this way. I think we're going to have to move on because I don't think we're going to agree 100%.
Yes, I can tell you right now.
I think the character being a robot, the whole thing is stupid. I like that they tied it to Hartford Industries and Overdrive. Great. A nice little nod. But other than that, I hate everything about the fact that she's a robot. It doesn't make sense in the world, but the budget, the money, how does she work? If I forget about all that, and I kind of have to, because even when she's not acting goofy, I'm like, this is still makes no sense to me. I'm just looking at, okay, they've decided this is a comedic character. Is this actress doing a good job? And I think the answer is yes. Should she be this character? Should she be this comedic? Maybe not, but that's not what I'm looking at this point because that ship has sailed. They've already made this decision that I think was a bad one. So I'm just sort of like, okay, well, you know, and so now I'm just, and you might still not like the actress. That's fine, but that's what I'm focusing on.
That's not the thing. The actress, I think, is doing well. It's the direction I have a problem with.
I agree, but I also think that the direction is based on the script, which is a bit like it's like 5 steps removed where there's mistakes were made. You know what I mean? So at this point, I'm just rolling with it.
The way I would equate it is like we've talked about in Megaforce, that Troy is not our favorite character, but we think Andrew Gray is a good actor.
Yeah, every time I've seen him in interviews and stuff, he's a super charming guy.
That's the thing. I'm not blaming the actress here. I'm blaming the everything supplemental.
Right, but I guess in my mind, she's going with the direction she was given, and it's still there's a bit of charm to it for me. It doesn't make logical sense. Doesn't make logical sense, but in a vacuum, just the faces she's making, like I could appreciate those moments, forgetting about what she's supposed to be and how it's supposed to work. But we're spending too much time on this, but and I'm not defending this. I think it's a bad idea for this character, but that being said, I'm like, oh, I kind of like, so whatever. So she finds a Sporix. She calls the Rangers on the hotline, which awesome, continuing that whole thing. And then, she has a video camera too. I forgot, which comes into play in a minute because like almost immediately the Rangers show up and so does the Mucus character, which we still don't know much about, except that she's like some kind of sidekick apparently now. And what I like though, is I think I have it here. Hold on. I don't want to, it's tough because I don't want to show too much. Like theoretically we should be able to show as much as we want, but like YouTube's so weird. I think not using sound helps, but I wanted to show this part. Okay. She calls, but when Mucus shows up, 1 second right here. Oh, look, and she goes, what do we have here? And then it's like Rangers.
Yep. Nope. I did like that.
I thought that was funny. And again, that's like a cartoony joke that worked and landed and made sense. We don't know much about that character, but it's like, okay, that makes sense. She's not much of a fighter. So yeah, I thought that was funny. I also like now they're fighting the monster and immediately they use the eyes on Zato and Ollie's like, don't look at the eyes. It's the eyes. And I love that because sometimes we see the Rangers figure stuff out right away. Other times like, what happened? Why is he like this? And like, okay, they're not all going to be the smartest people in the world, but they should at least be average intelligence, hopefully better because they're supposed to be aspirational. So I like when they figure stuff out quickly. That doesn't mean they've solved it. Doesn't mean they've defeated the monster, but like, oh, I see the problem. And so they immediately cover their eyes. And I thought that was, and the fact that it was Ollie too, who's like the skeptical looking for how things work. Yeah. He continues to prove me right that he's my favorite Ranger.
I'm still leaning towards Zato right now, but we still have plenty of Rangers and plenty of time.
Yeah, and again, I don't dislike any of the Rangers either. So it's
same.
It's more like they're all good, but and also I think there's an aspect to it that I identify with the skeptic nature of Ollie too, personally. So
which is so funny because one of the Rangers that I gave the hardest time to last season was Ravi, and they share a lot of the same qualities, but I find with Ollie that it's done correctly. He's kind of a worry about certain things.
He's more like charming and likable.
Yes.
Whereas the Ravi was written to be more like sullen and like brooding, So it was a lot of down dark notes with Ravi, whereas Ollie's and it probably because he gets a lot of that from his mom as opposed to having gone through trauma, which Ravi did.
Yep. So. And then right about here is when I went to the bathroom, got a drink of water, took a nap, and came back, and they were morphed.
Yeah, and you know what? I loved it.
I know.
It didn't make sense. Why was the monster just standing there? But it was different, and it was cool.
That they were facing outward, yeah.
Yeah, it's just we've seen everything happen in this show so many times the same way forever. That when they do something different, it's just I appreciate it. And it was cool looking, but it was a very polite monster to just wait.
It was the most anime thing I've seen in the show thus far.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I still liked it though. Because it was fun. And then Mucus steals the camera. She's like, this might come in handy, which was great because it's, continuity, foreshadowing, whatever. But I thought, I didn't think, oh, they're going to broadcast the eyes. I was like, they're going to make a camera monster. She's going to, like the usual. And so it's such an obvious plan, but I didn't think of it at that moment.
Same.
So then after that, they go to the observatory. They do the morph. And again, I really do like the morphing sequence. And the music in the morphing sequence even more, like I really enjoy that because it's real heavy. Like I said before, very, very thick and very Daft Punk. And I just think it works, really well. But anyway, they go to the observatory to do the science thing because Mucus sort of grabs the camera like, we're going to go because why? Who knows? They just, even though they're winning, they're going to go. That happens all the time. I didn't love the observatory scene. What did you think?
I didn't either. I thought it was. I feel like one or two throwaway lines would have helped it, But they kind of show up and they're like, hey, we just happen to be wondering if you guys had a signal that you translated. Just, wondering for a friend. They're like, nah, we heard some noise, but it was, didn't stop us. Barely an inconvenience.
Which is funny. I was thinking that same Ryan George thing where and then the monster just stands there while they transform for a minute and a half. Yep. Oh, very polite monster.
Yeah. Wow.
So I had a problem with it, but for different reasons. Once again, I accepted that Ollie knows someone that works there. His mom's in the business. Like maybe he knows that guy. And it's just like, hey, so that didn't bother me because there's enough connective tissue. Yep. What bothered me is they confirmed they got a signal. And then they said, well, we can't translate it. Why wouldn't they ask for a copy of it? Because if it's an alien language, if it's a code that humans might not recognize, down in the base they might. So it was like, okay, we just sort of decided it was nothing. Okay, well, can I get a copy of it? Even if they said no. But why wouldn't you ask? That bothered me. And we know because they needed to discover a different way, but still.
Yeah.
Hey, two pages of notes down.
I overlooked your grievance, but agree with it.
Fair. Okay. And I dismissed your grievance.
Fair.
So what's that?
Sustained.
Objection. So
you are out of order. Us every show. If you had to summarize that with court talk, out of order every show.
Out of order. I'm moving ahead here. So they almost immediately Mucus hooks it up to BuzzFeed, or not BuzzFeed. What's it called? BuzzBlast. And somehow, I guess the implication is that everyone's looking at BuzzBlast, and so not everyone's going to be, but maybe they made it bigger, whatever. That's like TV stuff I'll let go. But basically anyone in front of a screen is getting frozen. Yep. I'm fine with all that. What wasn't a big thing, but bothered me a little bit was in the base, Zato's not looking at it and he hears it. And Zolan is like, oh, what's this going on? And he's like, turn that off and he freezes. Fair, but shouldn't he have not looked, closed his eyes? Like, he knew not to look. He knew what was happening and he still looked.
I took it as he's like, no, don't. And it's next to the screen. And then he's like,
yes, no, I agree. But if the screen's over here and I hear, wow, 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 I go, whoa, turn that off. I wouldn't go, hey.
I know.
So it just, yeah. But luckily, Zato is immune. I'm sorry, Zolan is immune.
Yeah.
Zolan is immune because of her cybernetic eyes. Fine. I have no problem with that. And she unfreezes him immediately. Great. What disappointed me is I thought the fact that she had cybernetic eyes and was immune was going to come into play in some way.
Same.
And the fact that it was just a throwaway line, sure, okay, it proved that she's immune, great. But I thought it was going to have a bigger payoff where she would be the Ranger's eyes, or she'd show up with a gun, or somehow her immunity would come into play. And that would be awesome to give her a little hero moment in some way. Whatever.
One thing that I just realized as we said it, so we have the Medusa-like Sporix, 65 million years old, just kind of spawned up.
Yes.
We have the little toadstool Sporix that came and helped do a broadcast on the biggest social media platform in this Power Rangers universe, who is 65 million days, or 65 million years minus 4 days old.
Right.
And they figured out how to just, project it to everybody.
That doesn't bother me even a little bit.
It bothers me a ton.
It does. I understand your points. I'm not dismissing them like I was the observatory thing, but that is Power Rangers. That is superheroes. That is it's sort of like if you're a supervillain in Power Rangers, you kind of understand super science and can almost use magic to make things happen. So I don't think they understood the way we would, where you'd have to have like a degree in electronics communication stuff. I think it was like, oh, I've got this magic glob and my evil energy just connects it. And because I feel like it's that kind of stuff, that there's no real logic to it. It's all like evil magic.
If that were the case, fine. But let me get a very old video camera to help me with this plan.
I took that as a jumping off point. The way Rita would be like, oh, here's a purse. I'll make a purse monster. Just like it's, your point is not incorrect, but I think it's one of those things that's like it's always been true at Power Rangers, so it didn't bother me that much.
We'll agree to disagree.
Void Knight helped them. What?
We'll agree to disagree. I don't think Void Knight helped at all.
But we don't know because they are working for Mucus is working for Void Knight. We know that now, and Void Knight has shown that he understands technology, both Earth and otherworldly. So, like there's ways it could happen, and or it's a precedent that's been set many, many times. So it's kind of like you're not wrong. And if this was an isolated season of a show, I'd be like, what's going on? But like it's happened so many times, it's not even worth.
If Void Knight was there because it was American footage, even briefly, and then teleported out because he's like, oh, I got to make sure something happens, and then just leaves, fine. Throwaway line, scene, whatever. I wouldn't have had as big of a problem.
That would have made it better. I agree. But again, it's tough because I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying like.
I know. We both had things that like bother one of us more than the other, but we both acknowledge are a problem on some scale universally.
Yes. Yeah. So then they find out that his little thing that his mom gave him is the same material she needed to make this part. Fine. Yeah. She could decode it. Later on, he's shown wearing the pendant again. So I'm like, I guess she just took off a little piece of it, but it looked like it was
elongated it or something.
Yeah, it looked whatever. So there's that. Oh, hold on. I do like there's a line where he's like, oh, she always said don't give up and I shouldn't give up, and Zolan's like, oh, and she gave this to you, and she's like, aren't moms great? It's just like, I guess like fine, but was that the message for the kids? Or
I think it would have been better if she just looked directly in the camera. Aren't parents grand?
Eat your vegetables. It was very odd. He starts getting an idea of how to cover. He's like, well, I'm going to find out, I'm not going to give up in this other one. I'm going to fight and maybe I don't need to see. And again, I thought, okay, if you're not going to use her, maybe he can use like the Zord to fight or put on like a pair of cybernetic goggles or something.
Yeah, same.
But he's like, oh no, I'll use a sonic key so I could use the hearing. Fine. But it just, I don't know, the setup was like, the whole setup was to make him use the sonic key. But they had so many other directions that I thought they might go.
Yeah, the other thing too that was odd, I'm not going to say bad, was just odd, is that he fought them blind, using the key power-up, not morphed.
I didn't think that was bad. I thought that was interesting, actually.
It's interesting, but once again, from a high... It's like, hey, when do you usually fight monsters? Oh, when I'm morphed, and then I use a power-up sometimes if they're difficult.
We see Rangers fight monsters, especially like foot soldiers, all the time when they're unmorphed. Or they start off the fight unmorphed and then power up.
I know, but how often do they go in already with a slight handicap and then go, I'm not going to utilize just, stuff I got going on. I'm just going to just wing it. Just get in there.
I get what you're saying. I guess I took it more like when SPD used their powers or like any civilian powers, like or some of the like.
But this is already a power up. He's like using something outside and not using his base power up, which is kind of weird.
You're correct, but I liked the scene, so I didn't care.
I enjoyed the scene. It was just odd from a beat of I need to defeat these people that I'm not going to morph to give myself a better chance to do so.
Now that you pointed out, I agree. In the moment, I'm like, this is cool. This is some like Ninja Master bat stuff and American footage. So you're not wrong, but it's like after the fact, I'm thinking of this stuff. In the moment, I'm like, this is cool. We don't see this a lot.
Yep.
So, but I did the Dino key display that they had was kind of cool looking.
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing that before. Was it there?
I don't either. I don't think it was.
They talked about them, but I couldn't remember. Oh, here. Okay. Going back to you're bothered by these villains who are 4 days old from another universe, whatever, knowing how to rig up electronics, which I'm like, well, there's reasons for that. Once again, I'm bothered more by their grasp of culture and humor. Because he puts the thing on, he pulls out a sword. It's like, oh, what are you going to hit, a pinata? And it's like, a pinata? That's so specific. I mean, there are people that grew up on Earth that don't know what a pinata is. You know what I mean? Oh my! So that again, that's that weird humor. Like, so that bothers me more than the evil plan. You know what I mean? Which it probably shouldn't, but just because, like you said, they made a point of these things haven't existed for 65 million years, and now they're making jokes. Whatever.
I know. See, like. Yeah, I was less bothered by that because I didn't give it much time of day. Whereas the significant plot point with technology I did, and you're like, nah, just the joke didn't hit right for me. But the plot, it's fine. It's whatever. It's Power Rangers.
Because I'm allowing that the Power Rangers always does stuff like that,
Except for pinata knowledge.
Pinata, no.
That's where I draw the line, Hasbro.
Well, usually they have monsters or aliens that aren't necessarily, sometimes they're from Earth, sometimes they're not, but they're from the future, or they're an alien. But they're still like, oh, I've existed for a while.
They're
maybe they've been
acclimated.
Yeah, and this is just like, no, literally this monster was born like a couple minutes ago, and they're making jokes about Earth. Like, so yeah, it's just, I don't know. If they hadn't made such a point of how they didn't really exist, but whatever. So he, during the fight, smartly attacks the video instead of trying to just win the fight. And then once he gets the video, Blue and Pink are able to arrive. And then she immediately jumps off, the villain, who is called Vipera, jumps off the building and grows, which I thought was kind of cool. But I thought it was going to be more like a halfway down, like, whoa, like I thought it was going to be some cool, like, but it was still neat that once again, it's like 3 regular sized Rangers facing a giant monster. Yeah, I don't know. It does raise questions about the Sporix's abilities to grow large. Like, can they just do it whenever? Why do they choose to do it? Like,
my assumption is that they can grow large, but then they can't shrink.
That makes sense. So, but she wasn't like, you would think it would be like a thing of last resort then, but clearly she felt confident fighting 3 Rangers before. So why does she suddenly not feel confident now?
Because now they know her secret, and that's how she usually wins. Like, we've seen monsters in the past that are like really overpowered in some senses, but they're kind of a glass cannon where once you take away that one thing, they're like, oh, I don't know what to do anymore. Like, I feel like there was a villain, and I don't remember what season, but like they couldn't use blast attacks on it, or they couldn't use like swords or something, and they had to find some weird way to beat them. And then when they did, they're like, oh, you're actually not that difficult. We just don't know how to fight you.
That's true, but I didn't get the impression that I got the impression that this monster could fight, but could also blind. But maybe you're right. Maybe it was all about the blinding.
Yeah, the thing for me, when they grew large, I was like, oh, everybody's just going to be just stuck now.
But I guess like they have to activate their power, and they foolishly didn't activate it.
They're like, wait, they're going to activate their power. All right, I'm going to morph. You get a Zord. I'm going to get a Zord. We really got to handle this now, guys, before this happens. It's like, all right, another anime moment.
Once again, a very polite monster. A very polite monster. So T-Rex Zord is ready. The other 2 are not quite ready yet. So it goes in solo. This was another thing I thought. He goes in with the Zord, and he's like, I don't have time to make a blindfold. So he kind of is doing this with the Zord.
Yeah, which I liked.
I did not. Well, if he has to shield his eyes and they're addressing it, fine. But what I didn't like was, again, strategy. We know that cybernetic eyes are not affected. And the Zord presumably has cybernetic eyes. They look like a robot. You know what I mean? And we also see the Dino is self-aware, or at the very least
semi-sentient.
It doesn't need him to pilot it. And so it comes out, it's got the little key pilot headmaster thing. It could come out and start attacking as a dinosaur and look and not have to be blinded. So why turn it into the version of itself with him in the cockpit that's more vulnerable? That seemed like a bad tactical decision to me.
I agree.
Okay.
I know. This show, by the way, everybody, this show would be 5 minutes if all of it was, I say this thing, me too.
Yeah, it's like, okay. So while this is happening and he's doing his blindy fight, Pink and Blue get their Zords. They're announced. And it's should be an exciting moment, but bad CGI. Just lots and lots of bad CGI.
I didn't hate the CGI as much as I hated the first thing they did with their Zords.
First thing they did was explode out of the mountain.
No.
The second thing they did was to cut a piece of the road out.
They cookie cuttered part of the road and then somehow like hammered it onto the chest so it stuck and just perfectly blocked it during this fight.
Well, there are two things going on. Well, okay, I just want to once again say bad CGI throughout. All bad CGI. The worst I've seen on the show yet. And they cut it out and it seems like the right space, the shape they want it to be. But then the Ankylosaurus smashes it, I guess so that the pieces fly up in the air. And then Pink and Blue both have keys, again, different keys. One is like the hover one, so it makes the pieces hover. But if they had that, why didn't they hover the piece like the shape they needed it? Whatever. Then Blue, what is Blue? I wrote it down because he said a line. I can't remember.
I remember the hover.
He says, fix it quick. He doesn't say, it's not clear what the key is or whatever. I guess it's called the fix it quick key or whatever, but he just uses it. And so actually I should show that.
Oh, I think what it is she shatters it and he like reforms it onto the chest.
That's exactly what happens. Oh, you didn't realize that. Oh no, I realized that's what happened, but it didn't matter because it still made no sense. And it was still, here. Okay. So here they come with this shot, which wasn't great, was the best CGI they had. Then they come down the street, not great. And then I'm having a hard time finding it, but you're right. They shatter the street. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to find.
Well,
I love that morphing sequence, by the way.
and that is exactly how the toy morphs, actually, the Japanese one at least. So, okay, so I'm going to let it go for a second. That CGI is not great. It's very mediocre at best. We've seen it's sort of what you see from time to time, but it didn't impress me the way some of the other stuff has. And then, I'm so worried about copyright strikes showing this stuff. I'm going to stop.
I feel like we've done so much. It's going to happen or it's not.
Yeah, but basically, it seems like with the powers they have, they should be able to cut out the piece, levitate it, and put it up there. But then they shatter it seemingly just so he has a reason to use his. And then he just says, fix it quick. What dinosaur is that? What power is that? I don't know. And then it reforms and is stuck a chunk of the road onto the eyes, which again, covering up the eyes is a good strategy, but just the way, okay. This is them cutting up the road. Not good CGI.
Nope.
And I assume this is Sentai footage, but it's just like, yeah. Okay, so she does her thing with the hover. Okay, fine. She hovers it, whatever. And then he literally says, fix it quick. And then that happens. Makes no sense.
I hated that part. I think that's Sentai, but I hated it.
I agree, yeah. And so they got to work what they got. But I don't know if they could have explained it better or whatever. Also, they weren't in the Zords. I assumed they were until they cut away and saw them not in the Zords, which further proves that the Zords have sentience to some ability, and they didn't need Zato to get in the red Zord and have to fight blind. So that was weird. I also now we're going to talk about Megaforce again. This is the third episode, and we've now seen 5 power-ups. Is it 5 or more than that even?
Maybe 6.
We had 3 this episode and 3. Oh, no, so 6. So 6 power-ups at least.
Henchman counts to 7.
How does Henchman?
Because Henchman's supposed to be theirs.
I'm not counting that because that wasn't like a power-up they randomly got. So is it unbelievable and unrealistic that they have a whole bunch of power-up arsenal to choose from? No, but it just feels unearned and it feels unexplained. Like they're not even saying it's from this dinosaur and it'll do this and blah, blah. It's just like, I'm just using it. And it feels very Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah.
A very like, is this going to be the Batman utility belt now where just anything they need, do they have the key for it?
The MacGuffin Knights.
What's that?
The MacGuffin Knights.
Yeah, it's not there yet, but it worries me. That's why I said Megaforce is going to come up again, because it seemed like they got cards in Megaforce, and they got keys in Super Megaforce, and like it was just like candy. Like here you go, and it takes away some of the stakes, and it makes the power-ups less cool, because instead of having a whole episode about what does this do and how do we use it, oh boy, or we need to find that thing to counter this, it's just sort of like here's stuff, we all have powers.
Yeah, that was the thing that I really liked in Beast Morphers that we talked about, was they didn't form the Megazord for like a while.
Yeah,
they really utilized the Zords individually. They only had a handful of power-ups, and when they got them, it was very like, we got to build up to this, takes a lot of Morphex, this and that, which I did appreciate. This, I like that they are doing the key gimmick, but I'm with you where like, hopefully it slows down a little bit, just because we can't even keep track of the things we've seen in 3 episodes.
Yeah, and I also feel like it's gonna be that thing where like maybe we'll never see some of these keys again. Like they used it once and that's it. And where it'd be cooler if like, oh well, blue gets really good at this key and that's kind of their specialty, and then red really prefers this, like to make it mean something. But
or it's a thing where it's like kind of like Mega Man-esque, where it's like these keys have been neutral, and once they bond with your morpher, like you can use it, and like we got to use them sparingly because we never know who's gonna need them when, or we always want to like something significant where it's like, oh hey, let me toss you a stick.
And because if that's how it works, why not have a backpack with every key from the base so that you just always have them all ready to go? Like it's
very not even Ben 10. Ben 10 had some limitations, but.
I only watched the first 2 seasons, but yeah, there were definite limitations for Ben 10. There was a timer and a randomizer and a bunch of stuff like that. Might have changed later, I don't know. But so then they combine all 3. So it's weird because he's already the red Zord by itself is sort of the Megazord, and then these are just like sort of auxiliary Zords. So typically you get the 5 Zords or 3 Zords combined to make the Megazord, but this is like. Yeah, just auxiliary Zords, which doesn't bother me. And again, I think it's neat that it's different.
Yeah.
And I think the sequence was really cool looking, but it was weird. Again, there's just like questions I have about like, okay, the key becomes this sort of knight headmaster character that's doing these moves. Where are they? Are they in the air? And then like the red key turns into the head of the robot. But these keys just seem to disappear, and I have the toy, and you kind of just put them on the side. So it's just an odd question. Like, what are these little things? Like, are they energy creatures, or are they nothing? Like, it's just a weird question.
Spirit of the powers or something.
Yeah, and then they're just gone. So, excuse me. But that being said, I do think that the combination sequence was really cool, and I liked it.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of the Zord stuff is very cool, despite the bad CGI a minute ago that I was talking about. And then we get to see the three of them in the cockpit together. Let me see here. Chomp, chomp. So that was cool. Three of them in the cockpit together. I said before, I don't like this cockpit. I don't like the trope of them just sort of doing karate moves to make the robot move.
Yeah.
But I do like a joke here, where it's like, wow, we're in the Megazord. It's like, we got to get a selfie later. Like, and he's like, guys, look, we're fighting. Come on. Perfect. I liked all of it. I like, because that would be most people's reactions if they get into a Megazord. We need a selfie of this. And again, Zato wasn't like, you idiots, or like, it's just like, I get it, but come on, like gentle, not prod in the correct direction. Nurturing, yes. And then they call it the Mega Fury Saber, and basically win the day immediately.
There's one thing that dawned on me that was solidified in this episode.
What's that?
The trope that we're used to of modern Power Rangers has been flipped on its head this season.
In what way?
We're in the times of knights. Guns can't win every battle.
True. That's absolutely true. The swords are winning. These are very cool swords. These might be my favorite swords.
Yeah, they're pretty great.
In all of Power Rangers. I mean,
they have that handle trope, which I hated on that chainsaw sword, but work really well for this for some reason.
I like it. You believe they're powering it up, like pump, 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 pump. Like it's like they're priming the pump, like an old super soaker or something.
You know what I just thought of, and I have no way of confirming. What if on the toy, because Hasbro owns Nerf, there's like a Nerf dart in the middle, and you pump it to build the pressure, and then you.
I think the toy might already exist, so people probably already know the answer to that. But
probably I don't, but maybe you do.
I
no, you as in the people, not you as a Gazbot.
Gotcha.
That's a good shot.
That is a cool shot. That aside, I'd have to go back and really look at them all, but like, there's a good chance it's my favorite sword in any season of Rangers, because it looks intimidating. It looks like it looks like a magic relic of a sword. It doesn't look like a real sword like a knight would have in real life, but it looks like it works. And actually, when Zato fell, it was falling. It was like clang, 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 and like and I like the spin sword from Samurai, but it's kind of just like a regular sword with a spinner on it, and it's like not that exciting. Like this super sword is a little ridiculous. That's a little bit animated.
Yeah, it is a little gaudy, but
the normal swords, I like. It has that Doggy Kruger head thing going on, and it's got the charge up, and so I do find them very appealing. I'm not committing 100% that is my favorite without like really thinking about it.
For swords that everybody has that aren't specific to one Ranger.
Yes.
It's in my top 3. I may like the Quasar Saber better.
Quasar Saber is good. I'll agree, top 3 for now. But yeah, I'm not counting like Saba and like specialty swords like that. Then right at the end, Void Knight comes back, and it's funny because I was like, oh yeah, Void Knight, I forgot about him. And he's gonna grab the Sporix. I'm like, here we go again. But no, this time
they're literally like, nope.
Yeah, they're like, not today, Void Knight. And I was like, good, okay, finally they get a win. I liked that they started as underdogs, but you do want them to get some wins, and so that was cool.
The other thing that I found funny about that is like, neither side tried to fight, which I found interesting.
Whoever gets just like,
hey, and then he's like, oh well.
You won't
shucks, I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for you meddling Rangers.
It's the finders keepers rule. We all know it.
Yeah, right.
So they get back to the base and they are able to get the message, but it's unclear. And
my favorite joke in the whole episode was right.
It's
here.
a good joke. Okay, good. You say it then.
So they have Zolan, and Zolan's like, I speak millions of languages, but I've never heard of this. Also French. French is hard.
Yeah. I agree. That was a great joke. And this is what I was talking about. Like I had the same thing last episode where there were so many moments. It was like yes and no. With this one, it was more the comedy than anything else. Like I had nitpicks about strategy and stuff, and but generally the action and the monsters, it was all fine. But the comedy was so weirdly uneven,
inconsistent.
And I feel like that's been going on. Like I really do feel like there's an identity crisis with what they want to be doing. Yeah. And some of it's landing so good, and some of it's just like
Yeah.
fart jokes again, so it's
The one thing that was weird to me, just because obviously we know a little bit behind the scenes and we won't spoil anything for people who haven't looked at anything, but at the end when it pans out and he's like, I just want to know what this message is from, and I'm going to send a message to the universe. Hey, I'm Zato. I'm the leader of the Rangers. And I was waiting for like somebody to receive it or just something in general. And it's just like, nope, and SpongeBob's on. All right.
I actually was thinking it was going to be a negative thing, not like his people or another Power Ranger, but I thought it would be like some villain, like, oh, is that where the Rangers are? Ooh, is that where Zato is? Like, I thought we still might, though. I feel like that's not going to be like, well, it could lead to nothing, but that would be crazy waste of a potential there.
Ooh, I have a theory now.
Okay.
I think that's why we see somebody come to Earth is because they received the signal.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Another secondary character that we know of from behind the scenes.
Oh, I did not think of that, but yes, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect
Ninja Steel.
You're a Ninja Steel. You're a Ninja Steel.
And we'll leave it at that for those who don't know. But
I
overall,
think you should actually get a double Ninja Steel for that, actually, considering, yeah.
Hey, why not a triple? I mean, who knows?
No. Let's not get crazy.
No, you don't think that there's ever been a triple Ninja Steel moment ever?
I think there maybe has been, but this was not it.
I was going deeper more into the joke than I am for Ninja Steel points, but
I understand, but I don't want to.
Anyways, so what was your letter grade?
I feel like you, because I feel like last week I think you said we're at a C+ and went up to a B after we talked, and I feel like I started at a B, and after talking about it, I've talked myself down to a C+.
I would say this is a solid C. I feel the same way after talking as I did before. It didn't change my opinion at all, just because, like you said, this episode had lots of potential, but a lot of things dragging it down. I still like the season. I love a lot of the characters, but the things that I've complained about for most of the recent Power Ranger seasons that are negatives for me personally showed very true in this, and it was the comedy that just brings it down.
And that is weird. And I think most people most adults, let's say, that watch modern Power Rangers, everyone has complaints. People like things, people don't like things. But I do feel like the slapstick, cartoony, over-the-top, immature comedy is the thing that turns people off more consistently than anything else throughout all the seasons. And some people like it more or less. But so it is weird that now that they're given all this freedom, and what's his name? Simon Bennett, is that his name? The producer has specifically said that they used to have a comedic duo, and there's certain things you have to have, and now that they're free of it, they're still well, we don't they're afraid to let go of it completely. Well, we gotta have a little bit of that. And the talk of spreading the comedy around and making it more like everybody gets a funny line out. That's great. And we do have that. We do have characters getting a funny line. It's more organic. But then we still keep going back to the kind of cartoony comedy that just feels so out of place. And why are we into that?
The way I perceived this episode specifically is the French joke, good. The scene with the psychic, good. All the little subtle comedy, good. Or even
selfie pics in the
even the apparent comedy, that we didn't have to drag on. But then somebody was like, we got to do something with cement, and you got to put it in here, and it's got to be like this, and it's it feels so just forced and shoehorned in, where you're like,
and I'll go ahead and go to your point about her being a robot and everything. If I had to make a slapstick joke with that character, I would not go with cement, first of all, because that makes no sense. I would go with tar or something that you could step in and it's super sticky and you can't get it off. So strength and physics and everything. And then it could be oh, I need to get this off. And she'd try to kick it off, but it wouldn't work. And then maybe put her hand in, and it's so she would use what seems like logical things to get out of it, but it wouldn't work, and it would just get worse and maybe clog up her gears or something. It would still be stupid and slapsticky, but it would make more sense with the robot character being defeated by this sludgy substance as opposed to just
or for that whole scene, so-and-so still blindfolded. She steps in. J-Borg tries to get her to stop doing it. She's like, oh, my foot's stuck. Oh, my gosh, there's a Sporix. J-Borg throws her over the shoulder and runs away and is calling. I'd be like, wow, that totally works. You've shown that this character's goofy, and I don't love this, but I don't hate this as much as maybe if you changed it in some way.
So showing oh, they're being goofy and getting stuck in tar, but they're still competent enough to like kind of like an Alpha 5 thing, where like a goofball, but like when push comes to shove, they're gonna like activate.
Yeah,
the
like
filter or whatever they need to
obviously in life and especially in Power Rangers, there's situations that these characters get into that you're like, oh, that's like obviously it's set up and written that way, but then how you react to it, like the selfie thing. If we saw that in a past season, it probably would have had 3 more lines that we wouldn't have liked in succession. This was, oh, we should get a selfie. Hey guys, we have a monster here. Oh yeah, sorry. All right, like worked fine.
Yes,
just a little bit. Not
hey,
a
we
lot.
should do a selfie. You always want selfies. Whatever, guys. Come on, like,
guys. We're not working together. Use the power inside of you. Friendship. Like, all right, whatever.
I want to use the power inside for friendship right now, so that the two of us can say in unison our catchphrase. But to do that, we need to wrap things up. It is almost an hour. Oh, it is an hour total. Wow. So, I still have positive feelings towards this season, but you know. Oh, sorry. I shouldn't have said something so soon.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I like this season. It's like I said, with Beast Morphers, we've seen it from start to finish. Yeah. And the biggest thing we had was, here are the things you were doing well. Yeah. Keep doing them well. Stop trying to make something that has never worked work, because it's literally the definition of insanity.
Or even it has worked occasionally, but usually doesn't. I'll even allow.
Or like Bulk and Skull did it well. No one else came close. Well, maybe Ben and Betty.
Yeah, I'll even say this. Like, Bulk and Skull, there were people that did not like Bulk and Skull in the 90s. There were kids and adults that didn't like them then. But they've benefited from a few things. One, longevity. Going through so many seasons, they actually got character growth, and like even if you hated them in the beginning, you might like them later. 2, nostalgia. They were the originals. They were there from way back when, so we're all going to think fondly of them. And 3, it was the 90s. It was less played out. I mean, arguably, maybe you didn't like it originally, but it was less played out than, I mean, it's been decades and we're still doing the same thing. So if you're going to do that, like, yeah, give them character growth, adapt the jokes to not be 90s jokes anymore. Like, you know, and so there have been successes here and there, but you're trying to replicate a formula. Like you don't have. That's why like Megaforce, I feel like in a lot of ways didn't work, because they were trying to make the Rangers be like the Mighty Morphin Rangers, which again, it worked then. Doesn't mean it's going to work now. You gotta adapt and change things, and you know, whatever.
You eat a meal at a restaurant and then go, I can make that at home with no context other than I had it once and it was really good. But I have no idea the ingredients.
That I don't think that's quite true, because that's a bit harsher than I mean to be, because that implies that people working on the show didn't do several seasons or haven't have any experience.
No, what I mean is the direct replication, if we're talking Bulk and Skull to now.
Well, no, I think we're agreeing, but I just don't like that metaphor you used.
Okay, fair.
Okay. Let's be done. Let's I think there's an off week next week. So there's episode 4 is the week after, but I believe, is it next week? Yeah. So this Tuesday coming up, we're not going to have an episode. This week, this is our episode for the week. The week after, I think it's going to be Monday. We'll put it up the exact date. We're going to have an interview. I won't say who yet. It's going to be another Ranger voice actor, not Campbell Cooley. Someone we have not talked to before. Very excited about it. We'll put stuff up. It's probably going to be a live Q&A. So that's why I don't want to say the time and everything until it's all squared away and ready to go. That will be next, not this week coming up. We're filming this on Saturday, but the following week we'll have an interview. So we might actually end up having... No, okay, that'll be episode for that week. Yeah, so we have the review, then we'll have the interview, then we'll be back for episode 4 review is the basic.
We might have a video sprinkled in that's
a big solo video.
Yeah, like a review or something. We'll see how things shake out. But other than that, those are for sure coming. Everything else is a hard maybe.
Indeed. But until then, I have been Gazbot.
Still Big Dawg Defender.
And
to the power. See you guys later.
And credits.
That sword that you had is kind of cool, but
yeah,
also
that's also unique.
Oh, it's a saber. I will say it's a saber more than anything.
It's I think the Japanese name is like Yudo Breaker, but it's a unique weapon for Tokyo Rokugo. So that's not even, it wouldn't fall into the same category.
Yeah, similar but different.
No, I mean it's an individual Ranger power up weapon as opposed to all.
Oh, the more you know.
Yeah. All right. Goodbye.